Arms might shake for an hour.
No, I think it's
Yeah, they're going to be brought in.
It's just inconvenient to see the jury. Does that matter? Check.
What are we doing? Oh. I don't know what we're gonna do. Would you stop signing? You don't have me to sign.
You're here, remember this one, you just got 100 points.
You did.
We're not talking in this house.
Nail the assignment after this.
I wish she would try.
That's another 100.
Good to see.
They should have put that in this time.
I just haven't.
I told you about that.
Yeah, I think she's going over there to check it out.
Just fill in. It's good to see. I don't know where to go. Okay, cool. Yeah.
Good job. Nice.
Are my witnesses ready? Welcome, everybody. Thank you so much for coming. These kids are so excited to be here. And I mean that with sarcasm, they're probably not. But they are having an amazing time this semester. We are putting on a 1-hour mock trial, so it is very, very, very mini. There's a lot of things that probably should be technically into the questioning and a lot of arguments and things like that, but we do what we can with about 48 minutes of time to give 5 minutes to the jury to go deliberate and then come back in. So thank you for being here. Thank you to my wonderful class for an amazing semester. And all I have to say to you guys is just have fun, enjoy the moment, and just have a good time with it. I gave them carte blanche to take their client or their witness role and make it their own. So you're gonna see some of the character of each student come through, and I'm really excited for them. We don't have a chambers, so she can go outside for 1 second. The chambers of Jack Frost.
All rise. The Court of the 7th Judicial Court, Criminal Division is now in session. The Honorable Judge Chloe Barnes presiding.
Everyone but the jury may be seated. Mr. Hudgens, please swear in the jury.
Please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear or affirm that you will speak the truth in this case, the truth, right, and the fairness and integrity of this defendant?
Members of the jury, your duty today is to determine whether the defendant is guilty or not guilty based on the facts and evidence provided in this case only. The prosecution must prove a crime was committed and the defendant committed the crime. However, if you are not satisfied with the defendant's guilt to that extent, then reasonable doubt exists, and the defendant must be found not guilty. Ms. Blunt, what is today's case?
Your Honor, today's case is the State of Alabama versus Michael Wilson, case number 2024-CF-123456.
Is the prosecution ready?
Yes, Your Honor.
Is the defense ready?
Yes, Your Honor.
Your Honor, members of the jury, my name is Jessica Hernandez. My co-counsels and I are representing the state of Alabama in this case. Ladies and gentlemen, it is our intention that the state will prove beyond a reasonable doubt that the defendant, Mr. Wilson, did in fact go to the home of James Jones located at 123 Main Street with his longtime friend, Sean Smith, with the intention of robbing Mr. Jones of a winning lottery ticket, and when this did not go as planned, they murdered Mr. Jones in cold blood. We will show that Mr. Jones and Mr. Wilson did not have the relationship that the defense will try to portray here in this courtroom. In fact, it was quite the opposite. Both men were pursuing the same woman, and this created a large amount of animosity between the two. This animosity came to a head when Mr. Wilson had learned that his cousin had won the lottery and planned on proposing to Mrs. Simpson. On the afternoon of June 13, 2023, Mr. Wilson and Mr. Smith did in fact go to the home of Mr. Jones with the intention of taking the winning lottery ticket, splitting the proceeds 50-50, and killing the competition for Mrs. Simpson's heart. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, the state will rely on 4 witnesses to prove its case. They will testify that Mr. Wilson is guilty of the crimes charged. From the evidence you're about to hear, you will have no choice but to find the defendant guilty. Thank you.
Your Honor, members of the jury, my name is Nadia Rose. My co-counsels and I are representing Michael Wilson in this case. The defense intends to show the following facts in this case. The first one being that the prosecution recitation of the facts leave out the fact that the idea of the robbery was in fact Mr. Smith's and not Mr. Wilson's. Mr. Smith used the relationship between Mr. Wilson and his cousin, Mr. Jones, to enter the house. Mr. Wilson had no intention of robbing or harming Mr. Jones in any way. In fact, he was not even harmed at the time of the shooting. The defense will show that it was in fact Mr. Smith who came to the house with a weapon and ill intentions, and he is the only reason Mr. Jones is deceased. When Mr. Smith tried to rob Mr. Jones, Mr. Wilson began to fight with him over the gun. During the scuffle, the gun discharged, killing Mr. Jones. It is Mr. Smith that should be held accountable and not my client. Mr. Wilson should be found not guilty because the evidence being presented by the prosecution does not provide an accurate depiction of the facts and circumstances surrounding the death of Mr. Jones. It was Mr. Smith and Mr. Smith alone who concocted this robbery scene leading to the death of Mr. Jones, and he alone should be the only person responsible for these crimes. Thank you.
Prosecution, you may call your first witness.
Thank you, Your Honor. Hold on. Sorry about that, I had to get close to the mic, my apologies. Thank you, Your Honor. I call to the stand Sean Smith.
Will the witness please remain standing to be sworn in by the bailiff?
You swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Good afternoon. Please state and spell your name for the record.
Sean Smith, SCAN-SMITH.
How do you know Mr. Wilson?
That's been my friend since like 4th grade, practically my brother.
Do you know the witness, Mr. Jones? Not the witness, but the victim. Apologies.
Yeah, he used to come around my house a lot. Mike and James, got fussing with Mike, became so friendly with this girl,
Who was James's girl?
Jessica Simpson.
Did Mike tell you what he said during this altercation?
Objection, hearsay.
Sustained.
Okay then, when did you learn that Mr. Jones had won the lottery?
He was at a party.
Who do you mean by we?
Mike, me, James, Jessica, and my girl Alicia.
And what did you hear?
James won the lottery and he was professing his love for Jessica, explaining to her how once he collected the winnings, he was gonna marry her and take her somewhere.
Did it appear that Mr. Mike was upset?
Objection, speculation.
Your Honor, I merely tried to show how Mr. Wilson's actions proved his feelings for Miss Simpson and his animosity towards Mr. Jones Mr. Jones, which is the cause of his untimely death.
Overruled. I'll allow it.
Yes.
How did you come to this conclusion?
He got up fast and stormed out the room.
Moving on to the crime, did you accompany Mr. Wilson to Mr. Jones's house?
Yeah.
Why did you go to the house?
Mike said he wanted to apologize for all the bitching he did at his house.
In your own words, can you tell us what happened?
So, went to the house. James offered us some drinks. Sat around drinking, smoking, bullshitting for about 3 hours. And Mike took out his gun and just started tripping, yelling at James about how he stole the love of his life and how he needed to pay for it. I told Mike, that you're crazy as fuck. So, and we need to go ahead and leave before stuff got out of hand. And right after I said that, I heard a gunshot. James was lying on the floor.
Was this the gun that Mike was holding in James's house?
Yeah.
Your Honor, I'd like this to be marked and admitted as State's Exhibit Number 1.
No objections?
So admitted. Please give it to the clerk to be marked.
What did you do after James was shot?
We got the hell up out of it.
Thank you, Your Honor. No further questions.
The defense may cross-examine the witness.
Good afternoon, Mr. Smith.
Come on.
You're currently serving a sentence in connection with this shooting, are you not? In fact, haven't you made a deal with the state for less time if you testify against my client?
Yeah.
So would it be reasonable to believe that your testimony here today is nothing more than a way to protect yourself from a longer prison sentence by blaming my client for your actions?
No.
Did you ever have a relationship with Miss Simpson?
Yeah, we was younger in high school. We was in the marching band together. She played the clarinet, and I was part of the drum line. We dated for about a year before she went on to college.
Who ended the relationship?
She did.
Thank you, Your Honor. I have no further questions.
Your Honor, redirect.
For witness counsel.
Mr. Smith, was your breakup with Miss Simpson amicable?
What does that mean? Like, were we cool?
Yes.
Yeah.
No further questions.
You may sit down. Prosecution, you may call your second witness.
Thank you, Your Honor. I'd like to call Jessica Simpson.
Will witness please remain standing to be sworn in by the bailiff?
Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Please say and spell your name for the record.
Jessica Simpson, Jessica-Simpson.
What was your relationship with the victim?
I was his girlfriend.
And how long had you and Mr. Jones dated before his death?
I'm not sure. There was Caleb and then Drake and then Josh for about, I think it was about 2 years. You can't keep a woman like me tied down.
Okay. And were you at the party where Mr. Jones announced he won the lottery and wanted to marry you?
I was.
And how did this make you feel?
Oh, it was amazing. I was so happy. I wanted to spend the rest of my life with James. He was my soulmate. He had the biggest heart, and it wasn't about the money at all. And I loved him so much.
Okay. And the defense wants us to believe that you and Mr. Smith may have been rekindling your relationship at the time of Mr. Jones' death. Is this true?
No, he was just a friend. It was high school. We both moved on. I know from all the Botox, doesn't look like high school was too far away, but it definitely was.
Thank you, Your Honor. No further questions.
The defense may cross-examine the witness.
Now, Ms. Simpson, have you been to Mr. Smith's house within the last 6 months?
I have.
Why?
Well, Sean needed my advice on how to handle his girlfriend. She was just being a real bitch. She was getting really paranoid and kind of acting like a stalker. And, you know, if he was with me, that wouldn't happen.
Right. Did James know you were at Sean's house?
Objection. Objection. Relevant.
Your Honor, it is important to show that Ms. Simpson was hiding the fact that she was seeing her ex from the victim, which goes to the heart of the defense that it was Mr. Smith and not my client who was in love and in a jealous rage over the victim's plans with Ms. Simpson.
Overruled. No.
Thank you, Your Honor. No further questions.
You may sit down. Prosecution, you may call your next witness.
Thank you, Your Honor. I call to the stand Dr. Ashton Wade.
Will the witness please remain standing to be sworn in by the bailiff?
Please raise your right hand. You swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Please state and spell your name for the record.
Dr. Ashton Wade, A-S-H-T-O-N-W-A-D-E.
Dr. Wade, can you please provide the judge and jury with your background?
Of course, I have a bachelor's degree in forensic science with a minor in chemistry from the University of Alabama, a master's degree in criminal justice from Jacksonville State, and a doctorate in forensic science from Oklahoma State.
Do you hold any certifications?
Yes, I'm a certified firearm specialist and hold additional certifications of firearm evidence examination and identification, 2-mark evidence examination and identification of gunshot residue evidence examination and identification.
And where do you currently work?
I am a forensic scientist employed by the Alabama Department of Forensic Science located in Auburn, Alabama,
How long have you been working there?
for the last 15 years.
Were you tasked with the identification of the weapon and ammunition used in the murder of Mr. Jones?
Yes.
And what were your findings?
I test fire bullets from the weapon which was obtained from the defendant's home. These bullets were then compared to the bullets retrieved from the body of Mr. Jones using a comparison microscope to determine if there was any significant similar characteristics between the two.
And were the bullets fired from your test and those retrieved from Mr. Jones similar?
I believe that they were similar within a reasonable degree of scientific certainty.
And what does this mean?
The bullet retrieved from Mr. Jones' body was most likely fired from the weapon found in the defendant's home.
Thank you, Your Honor. No further questions.
The defense may cross-examine the witness.
Good afternoon, Dr. Wade.
Good afternoon.
Did you test Mr. Wilson for gunshot residue?
I did. He was positive for gunshot residue.
Did you test Mr. Smith?
I did. He was also positive for gunshot residue.
How do you account for 2 people testing positive for gunshot residue?
Anyone standing within 3 to 5 feet of a discharged firearm can test positive for gunshot residue.
With the samples provided to you by the state, can you determine if it was Mr. Wilson or Mr. Smith who fired the shot to Mr. Jones?
No.
Thank you, Your Honor. No further questions.
You may sit down. Prosecution, you may call your next witness.
Thank you, Your Honor. I call to stand Dr. L. Hathaway.
Will the witness please remain standing to be sworn in by the bailiff?
Please raise your right hand. You swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Please state and spell your name for the record, Dr. Hathaway.
Dr. L. Hathaway, E-L-H-A-T-A-W-A-Y.
Dr. Hathaway, can you please provide the judge and jury with your background?
I have an undergraduate degree in anatomical biology, Doctor of Medicine from the University of Chicago Pritzker School of Medicine, completed my residency in pathology at the University of Chicago Hospitals, and completed a fellowship in forensic pathology at the Cook County Medical Examiner's Office. I also am a board-certified diplomate of the American Board of Forensic Pathology and possess an advanced certification in forensic toxicology through the American Academy of Forensic Sciences. I am a seasoned forensic pathologist with over 20 years of experience in the field of forensic medicine, and as the Chief Medical Examiner for Calhoun County, I oversee all autopsies and death investigations within my jurisdiction, providing expert testimony in a court such as this, consult on homicide and complex cases, and ensure the integrity and accuracy of death determinations.
What was your role in this case?
I was the medical examiner who performed the autopsy on Mr. Jones.
Can you please tell us how the victim in this case died?
Mr. Jones was the victim of a single gunshot wound which entered his chest right above his 6th thoracic rib, severing the right pulmonary artery, resulting in death.
Your Honor, I'd like to mark and omit this diagram as states exhibit number 2.
No objection.
So omitted. Please give it to the clerk to be marked.
Permission to publish to the jury?
Granted.
Dr. Hathaway, can you please explain the injuries shown on this diagram here?
That diagram is of the entry of the bullet into Mr. Jones's body in the lateral aspect of the thoracic region of his body. The bullet passed through his chest and through the 6th and 7th thoracic rib, severing the right pulmonary artery and exiting in the posterior aspect of the thoracic region of the body.
What was the ultimate cause of Mr. Jones' death?
Mr. Jones died of blood hemorrhaging and organ failure, secondary to a gunshot wound to the chest.
Could Mr. Jones have survived this if immediate medical care was administered?
In my expert opinion, no. His death occurred within minutes.
Thank you, Your Honor. No further questions.
The defense may cross-examine the witness.
Did you perform any toxicology tests on Mr. Jones during your autopsy?
Yes, that is standard for potential homicide cases.
What did the toxicology test show?
Mr. Jones tested negative for amphetamines, barbiturates, marijuana, opioids, ETOH, cocaine, and narcotics.
Just for clarification for the jury, what is ETOH?
Apologies, it's the scientific abbreviation for ethyl alcohol, also known as alcohol or liquor.
Does this mean that Mr. Jones was not drinking, smoking, or taking any illegal substances prior to his death?
That is correct.
Thank you, Your Honor. I have no further questions.
You may sit down.
Your Honor, the prosecution rests.
Defense, you may call your first witness.
Thank you, Your Honor. I call to the stand Troy Rosado.
Will the witness please remain standing to be sworn in by the bailiff?
Please raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Would you please state your full name for the record?
Troy Rosado, Troyrosato.
How do you know the defendant in this case?
I've been friends with Mike since about high school.
Are you also familiar with Mr. Sean Smith?
Yeah, we were in the band together in high school.
So you knew both Mr. Smith and Ms. Simpson when they were dating at high school.
Yes.
Would you say their breakup was a peaceful one?
Not at all. Sean was pissed when Jess dumped him, and after I heard rumors that Jess was sleeping around and that Sean had caught her in a bed with a friend. I don't know a name, but that's what I heard.
Did you ever find out if it was true?
Yeah, Mike told me that it was James.
Objection, hearsay.
Sustained. The jury will disregard the witness's last statement.
Could you please tell us about the defendant's character?
I would say he's one of the most caring people I know. He always looks out for others, and he always tries to help when someone's in need.
You've known him for years. In your experience, would you say the defendant is capable of committing such a violent crime?
I wouldn't say so. It's just not in his nature. I've never seen him get angry or violent. He's the kind of guy who talks things through, not someone who just resorts to violence.
So you said the defendant is not a violent person. Can you provide an example to support that?
Yeah, one time we were at the bar and this guy just started to try and fight with him. And instead of resorting to violence, he just walked away. He didn't want to escalate the situation, and he's not the type to get involved in violence.
So, based on your knowledge of the defendant, do you believe he is capable of the murder he's been accused of?
I don't believe so. I don't know who did, but I know he didn't do it.
Thank you. Thank you, Your Honor. No further questions.
The prosecution may cross-examine the witness.
Mr. Rosado, you keep saying that the defendant is a good person, but are you aware that the defendant was in a financial distress around the time of the murder?
I knew things had been tough for him. I know he'd lost his job, but he was looking for work. It just wouldn't, I don't think it would be something that would make him snap.
So you're telling the court that the financial stress wouldn't cause someone to commit murder?
I'm not saying that. I just don't think it was enough to push him to do something like this. I just don't think that's who he is.
So you say you know the defendant well, but you never saw any signs that he might snap even though he was under stress?
I didn't see anything. He never talked about hurting anyone, and he always seemed to have everything under control.
So you're telling the court that he was looking for work. Do you know if he was aware that the victim was coming into a significant amount of money that night?
I don't know. I can't say what he knew.
Do you still believe he's incapable of committing the crime?
I believe he's incapable. I'm not saying I know everything that happened, but I don't think he did it.
Thank you, Your Honor. No further questions.
You may sit down. Defense, you may call your second witness.
Thank you, Your Honor. I call to the stand Alicia.
Will the witness please remain standing to be sworn in by the bailiff?
Please state and spell your name for the record.
Alicia Hayden, ALEISHA, HAYDEN.
How do you know the witness in this case?
I'm his girlfriend. I've been his girlfriend for 5 months.
Were you with him on the night of the murder?
Of course I was.
Can you tell the court what you were doing together that evening?
We were in my apartment watching movies.
Did he leave the apartment at any point during the night?
You know he did. He loved to be with his friend as always.
Did he seem agitated or upset that evening, like he's been today?
I don't know. I was in a mood that day, so I don't know.
Did he mention anything to you about the events surrounding the murder?
No, he didn't really go into details about what he saw.
What was his emotional state when he shared any information with you?
I don't know. I was in a mood.
Can you describe his behavior the days following the murder?
He was chill, I guess.
Has he ever given you any specific details about what he witnessed during the murder?
He didn't go into details about the murder.
In your relationship, did you trust him unlike he did you?
After what I heard, I don't really know.
Thank you, Your Honor. No further questions.
Prosecution may cross-examine.
Miss Lucia, you mentioned that you and the witness were together the night of the murder, is that correct?
Yes.
Now, you mentioned that your boyfriend shared with you that he witnessed something disturbing. Can you be more specific?
He didn't go into details about the murder.
And you don't know what he saw, correct?
No.
And you haven't heard him give any detailed accounts of the murder to anyone else, have you?
No, he doesn't talk to anyone.
So you're asking the jury to believe that your boyfriend witnessed a murder, but you have no specifics, no concrete details, and no independent confirmation of what he saw.
I'm not asking anybody to believe anything that I don't know. I'm just telling you what was told to me.
So you don't know if he actually witnessed the murder at all. You're simply just taking his word for it?
No.
But again, you have no first-hand knowledge of these events, correct? You were not with him when the murder happened.
Exactly.
Thank you, Your Honor. No further questions.
You may sit down. Defense, you may call your next witness.
Thank you, Your Honor. I call to stand Mr. Michael Wilson.
Will the witness please remain standing to be sworn in by the bailiff?
Would you please state your name for the record?
Michael Wilson, MICHAELWILSON.
Do you know Mr. Sean Smith?
Yeah, he's been my friend for a long time, man. I just don't know why he lying about me like that.
What do you mean lying about you?
Man, you know we went over to James' house to party and celebrate his winnings. I had no clue that he was planning to rob my cousin. We were having a great time. All of a sudden, he was just yelling at James and then just talking about Jessica. He pulled out a gun. He was acting crazy.
Did you plan to go to your cousin's house to rob him of his lottery ticket and kill him?
Man, hell no.
Why do you think Sean would say you committed this crime with him?
To save his own ass, I guess.
Can you please elaborate on what you mean by save his own ass?
After the party, he was acting crazy, talking about Jessica and how he should be with, how she should be with him. He even broke up with his girlfriend and accused her of stalking him, when in fact he was one stalking Jess.
Did Jessica ever reciprocate his feelings?
I don't know, but they met up a few times.
Did Alicia know about Sean meeting up with Jessica?
I don't know, but she was acting strange a few days before this incident.
Do you think Sean is capable of killing James in order to steal the money and try to get Jessica back?
Before now, that was my dog. I'm not sure now, though. I do know that Jess would never take him back. She was in love with my cousin. After he was killed, she almost died because she refused to eat.
Did you have any reason to want your cousin dead?
Nah, man, we was cool like brothers for real. I knew you'd take care of it.
Thank you, Your Honor. I have no further questions.
Prosecution may cross-examine.
Have you ever been involved in a burglary or a murder before, Mr. Wilson?
Objection, compound.
Sustained. Rephrase, counselor.
Have you ever been involved in a burglary before?
I have made some mistakes in my past, I ain't gonna lie. But that was years ago. I've been trying to turn my life around.
Have you ever been involved in a murder before?
Hell nah.
Is it possible you were simply in the wrong place at the wrong time?
That's exactly what happened. I didn't go there to take anything, and I definitely not go there to kill my cousin.
I see. Can you explain what you were doing at the victim's house then?
I didn't intend to commit a crime. I was just there and got caught up in something I didn't expect.
Did you ever intend to harm the victim?
Nope, I never intend to harm anyone. I was only trying to stop Sean from shooting James.
Is it possible the victim's death occurred as a result of the struggle trying to get the gun away from Mr. Smith?
Yes, it's very possible. I didn't want anyone to get hurt.
Given your past criminal history, is it possible you are being unfairly targeted or assumed to be guilty?
I know my past a little bad, but I didn't commit this crime or kill anyone.
Thank you, Your Honor. No further questions.
You may sit down.
Your Honor, the defense rests.
Both the prosecution and the defense have now rested their cases. The attorneys will now present their final arguments. Prosecution, you may begin.
Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, we stand here today to seek justice for a life tragically lost, the life of James Jones, who was murdered in cold blood. The defendant, Michael Wilson, is accused of this horrible crime, a crime committed not in a fit of rage, not out of a momentary lapse of judgment, but with a deliberate and calculated intent to take a life, his own cousin's life, over money. The evidence presented before you has painted a clear picture, and now it is up to you to deliver justice. Throughout this trial, we have heard from witnesses and experts, and we've examined the physical evidence. What has emerged is not a mere unfortunate accident. What we have is the defendant's involvement in a premeditated act, one that cannot be dismissed or ignored or explained away just because of his friend's potential involvement. Yes, the defense has tried to place some doubt on who may have been the shooter, but let's be clear. This case is not about guessing or assuming who pulled the trigger. It's about who planned the murder, who stood to gain from it, and who, in the end, orchestrated it. And that brings us to the defendant. Now, the defense would have you believe that Sean is the one who pulled the trigger, but let's not lose sight of the truth. It was the defendant who had the motive. It was the defendant who set the wheels of this terrible crime in motion. Whether or not Sean fired the fatal shot does not absolve Michael Wilson of his involvement. The law makes it clear. Anyone involved in murder, anyone who participates in the planning, the execution, or the cover-up, shares the guilt. Ladies and gentlemen, you are the final safeguard in this case. You alone have the power to say enough, to make it clear that murder for money, no matter the circumstances, will not be tolerated. You have a responsibility to send a message to the defendant and to anyone who might think that a life is worth sacrificing for greed, that this community will not stand for it. The evidence is clear. The defendant planned and caused the death of his cousin, and now it is your duty to hold him accountable for that act. We ask that you return a verdict of guilty as charged. Thank you.
Defense, you may proceed with your closing argument.
Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, I stand before you today to ask for your careful, thoughtful consideration of the evidence, or more specifically, the lack of solid evidence that has been presented in this case. Now, the prosecution wants you to believe that the defendant, my client, murdered his cousin for money. They painted a picture of greed, betrayal, a family torn apart. But when you strip away the emotional appeal, when you take a hard look at the facts, what do you actually know for sure? The prosecution case is built on assumptions, on a narrative that fits their theory, but not on solid proof. It is easy to blame the closest person, the family member, but this is not the time for assumptions and biases. This is the time for facts, and the facts tell us that the person who could have been the shooter, the one with the motive, the opportunity, and the violent tendencies, has not been examined thoroughly. In fact, as you review the evidence, it is clear that the prosecution case rests not on hard facts, but on a series of unfounded inferences. They want you to believe that my client, driven by a desire for money, would kill his own cousin. But they've offered no clear explanation as to why my client would choose this path over many other options. Why would he commit murder instead of taking a different route? We are not here to guess. We are not here to speculate, filling gaps with assumptions. We are here to apply the law, to demand that the prosecution meet their burden of proof, which they have not met. I urge you to remember that the presumption of innocence is not just a formality. It is a cornerstone of our justice system. It is enough for the prosecution to tell a compelling story. They can do that all day. But today, they must prove their case beyond a reasonable doubt. And I submit to you that in this case, they have failed to do so. In closing, I ask you to look at the evidence with a clear mind and an open heart. My client deserves nothing less than your full and fair judgment. And when you do, I believe you will see that there is simply not enough evidence to convict him. Ladies and gentlemen, I have no doubt in my mind that Michael Guilty is not guilty. We ask that you find the defendant, Michael Wilson, not guilty as well. Thank you.
Members of the jury, you have all heard the testimony concerning this case. It is now up to you to determine the facts. You and you alone are judges of the facts. Once you decide what facts the evidence proves, you must then apply the law as I'm about to read it to you, the facts as you find them. The defendant is charged with murder. A person commits the crime of murder if he or she commits or attempts to commit burglary in the first or second degree or any other felony clearly dangerous to human life, and in the course of and in furtherance of the crime that he or she is committing or attempting to commit, or in immediate flight therefrom, he or she or another participant, if there be any, causes the death of any person. To convict, the state must prove beyond a reasonable doubt each of the following elements. A person, James Jones, is dead. The defendant committed or attempted to commit burglary in the first or second degree, or any other felony clearly dangerous to human life, and in the course of and in furtherance of the crime that the defendant was committing or attempting to commit, or in immediate flight therefrom, he or she or another participant, if there be any, caused the death of any person, James Jones, by shooting Mr. Jones in his home. To convict the defendant of murder, the state must also prove beyond a reasonable doubt that the defendant committed the crime of burglary in the first or second degree. A person commits the crime of burglary in the first degree if he or she knowingly and unlawfully enters or remains unlawfully in a dwelling with intent to commit a crime therein, and if in effecting entry or while in the dwelling or in immediate flight therefrom, the person or another participant, if in the crime and effecting entry, is armed with a deadly weapon or dangerous instrument, or while in the dwelling or in immediate flight from the dwelling, uses or threatens the immediate use of a deadly weapon or dangerous instrument against another person, or a felony that is clearly dangerous to human life. A person attempts to commit a crime if, with the intent to commit a specific offense, he or she does any overt act in the commission of that offense. If you find from the evidence that the state has provided beyond a reasonable doubt each of these elements of murder, then you shall find the defendant guilty of murder. If you find that the state failed to prove beyond a reasonable doubt any one or more of the elements of murder, then you cannot find the defendant guilty of murder. In just a moment, the bailiff will take you to the jury room to consider your verdict. One of the first things that you will need to do is select a foreperson. It will be the foreperson's duty to sign the verdict form that you have all agreed on the verdict. Whatever verdict you render must be unanimous, which means each and every person agrees on that verdict. The bailiff will now escort you to the deliberation room.
All rise.
You may be seated.
So what did everyone think? Not at the thing. Does anybody think he's guilty? Raise your hand if you think he's guilty. Just throw him under the bus. They had a lot of fun. They were a little bit nervous, I can tell. It was so good.
It was good. It was TV good, man.
It was better than when we did it.
You did it in D100.
Yeah.
I mean, come on. It's a little
Yeah.
It's a little nicer.
I know. It's an upgrade.
I gave them about 5 minutes to deliberate, which is not normal for a murder case. Well, that's your Alistair. I think they came back and they just wanted to have lunch. Not even that, they can have lunch. They got a meal.
He just wanted to play with the door. Where's the bailiff?
Best part of the courtroom.
Are you the court jester?
Yes.
Okay.
We have to. I've never been in
Stage strip.
Everyone gasp, and I want you to dive
towards the judge.
Sure.
I've seen that video.
So,
Yeah, that's, I mean, that's
Listen, that's
be a pretty good ball.
It's not gonna work.
That's all right, I'll try.
I'll stay for the whole thing. I'm so proud of you.
I like the look when you came over here, I liked it.
Mm-hmm.
That was much more sincere when she came and approached the jury, got right into the jury grill.
Oh, yeah.
You may be seated. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, have you reached a verdict? Will the defense please rise? Will the foreperson please read the verdict?
We, the jury, in the case of the State of Alabama versus Michael Wilson, find the defendant as follows. As to the charge of murder, we, the jury, find the defendant, Michael Wilson, not guilty.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for your service today. Court is adjourned.
Doctor Hattie.
That's great.
So, thank you guys so much. Did you have fun?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Thank y'all.
Will you be a jury in another semester if we ask you?
Yeah.
I'm sure. We just wanted to have no idea about what was going on. So, I hope you had fun. Everybody else, I hope you had a great time. Thank you so much for coming and kind of watching these kids perform what they learned a little bit of during the semester. Hopefully they take something from this, other than funny witnesses.
The girlfriends you ate down. That was so funny. That was so fun.
Yeah, girlfriends apparently were the witnesses. Sorry, experts. Scoring. Okay. So, but thank you everybody for coming. We appreciate you so much for, just coming out and seeing all their work, and I'm sure they appreciate it a lot. Good job.
Sheryl, great job putting it together.
Something else, Whitney.
I know.
Tape it down.
I know.
Amazing.
The old one.
It was great.
Those are posts.
Oh, we're taking pictures.